Sorry. So thank you all for being here again. So this week's topic, we're going to be talking about the LGBTQ just and we're going to have a panel at the end. But before we start, I just wanted to reiterate the purpose of why we have these private meetings. Because I know that this can feel very fast paced and we may feel like, oh, why are we here in the first place on Friday? We could be somewhere else. But the purpose of this program is to equip you guys with a lot of different skills so that you can develop as a leader. And also so you can bring other kind of academic skills and just a lot of different things to gain. So we try to present various topics in order for you guys to have a deeper understanding of the resources we have on campus, a deeper understanding of people that we could be leading in the future. So for example, if someone is identifies as LGBTQ, how are you able to support them? And this kind of thing isn't really talked about in a lot of Indian households. It's a very taboo topic actually, and something that is discussed. So learning how to navigate through these kinds of conversations is really beneficial for you in order to again understand people and with a lot of the community members better. Yeah.
You do.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Blue, and I tell everyone spelled like the cheese. I serve as the Assistant Director for the LGBTQ Student Resource Center at Auraria. Just wanted to share a few things with y'all. So let's get started. So meet the team. We have a few student staff. So we have about 4 student staff currently and 2 professional staff in the center. So this is also a space for you to potentially gain employment on campus. If you or anybody that you know is a part of the community or wants to work for this community, definitely a cool place to work. I think that we have a lot of fun there. And so, yeah, they make $17 an hour. So I'm like, that's pretty good. Yeah, not that long ago, I wasn't making that much as a student leader, but sure. But yeah, a little bit quickly about me. Again, my name is Blue. I use they, them, she, her, and siya pronouns for those that speak Tagalog or are part of the Filipinx diaspora. I'm a first-generation genderqueer, Filipinx, pansexual, 30-year-old nerd of color. I was born and raised in Bellflower, California. Most people don't know that, so I say Long Beach. I have about 5+ years of gender and sexuality education and experience through student leadership positions, my graduate school time, and then now in this role. I was also a continuation high school student, so untraditional high school student that was kind of failing, and they were just like, you need to do something about that. I figured it out. I graduated. Some of my friends from my old home high school told me about Cypress College. So then I joined the community college and got 2 AAs in both social and behavioral sciences and sociology. Then found out I could transfer, did not know that was a thing. And then I graduated with 2 BAs, also 1 in sociology with a concentration in social inequalities and American studies. So I have a very big humanities background behind me. And then I also just currently received last June my master's in higher education with an emphasis in diversity and inclusion and college student affairs. So that's just a little bit about me. So new to Colorado, I'm about 2.5 years sprinkled in. A little bit about the center. We're located in the Tivoli Student Union 213. We're right next to the credit union. We were founded in 1992, which was the year I was born, which is wild because I'm here working in an office that's as old as me. And it currently serves MSU Denver, UC Denver, and the Community College of Denver. So what do? We promote community advocacy and education, and I'll go into each of those right now. So in the ways that we provide community, so we have a social space in our LGBTQ Student Resource Center. So I always tell students it's a place for you to come, hang out, procrastinate, chill, study, meet new people, be in community. But we also host some pretty cool events. So yesterday we had a queer trans people of color paint and wine, which was really cool. We partnered up with the Gender Institute for Teaching and Advocacy over at MSU and just had a really cool time with students from CCD, from students from MSU and UCD. So that was also really cool. So we also have different events too that engage the community. So we actually have a vision board event coming up that's called Take Pride in Your Vision. If you wanted to come through to that, that'll be on Tuesday, March 7th at 11 to 1:30. And then we also host signature events like Trans Day of Remembrance and Trans Day of Visibility so that we can highlight these communities, honor, commemorate, and celebrate our trans communities as well. And then we also host a lavender graduation each semester. So in the event that you or anybody that you know is involved with the LGBTQ community and is graduating, it is a ceremony that you can be a part of. You'll receive a certificate, you'll receive a stole, and just kind of be honored and celebrated for all your accomplishments graduating as a UCD student, since you are all UCD. Through advocacy, we promote inclusive campus process and policy design. So thinking about the ways in which we make sure that we do have gender neutral restrooms on campus, or thinking about the ways that policy is informed to think about LGBTQ students, such as gender neutral restrooms. We also provide campus system support. So like, say, if you or anybody that you know is experiencing something in the classroom that you just know is not right, and it's potentially related to gender and sexuality, you can tap me, or mainly our director, Tyrell, and she would be more than happy to assist you to get you to the right places to make sure that you are supported on campus. And that also includes, again, campus conflict support. So that could look like in the classroom, that could look like in the dorms. If you hear something that's potentially like transphobic or something, we could like kind of mitigate that in a way that will kind of help support whoever is involved in that process. We promote education, so that's through training and consultation, similar to this, like how I'm coming to you to speak to you today about our center and learn a little bit more about gender pronouns and inclusive language. We also provide direct consultation. So again, our offices, if we're not in a meeting, our offices are open typically for you to come in and like ask questions or even provide consultation for departments and offices such as this who are looking for learning more about a community. We also provide identity affirming resources and support. So if people are queer, questioning, you know, all these identities are always fluid and ever changing. If you have any questions, you can come to us, talk to our student staff, and then we can either get you to the right place, or you can just kind of talk to us. And we're actually a pretty cool group of people. And then we also give campus community referrals in case that you are looking for counseling, or like students who don't know certain resources that are on campus that are available. Through education also, we have a library and media space. So we have a giant extensive library of LGBTQ type of books and media such as DVDs and things that you are able to check out too. So if you wanted to learn more about a community and all the things, we also have that. So that's how we promote the LGBTQ Center, through community advocacy and education. So just thinking about discourse and thinking about language, some people ask, are there common terms or phrases like ally, for example, that folks commonly use that are seen as unhelpful or outdated? And we just want to remember that language is always changing, it's fluid, it's subjective. So the term ally means different things to different people. Same thing with queer. I think about like the older community, they more so see queer as a slur. So kind of watch on like where I use the language and who I'm using it with. Same thing with LGBTQ and LGBTQIA, kind of interchangeable. It just depends on who you're talking to. And also thinking about how we also respell terms with a X, like women, for example, to be more inclusive of trans women or people that identify as women that aren't traditionally seen as women. But thinking about that too, some people within the community, there's conversations about how the X actually others people within that community. So just kind of thinking about context. And again, yeah, thinking critically about context, be clear about who your audience is, and don't expect everyone to have the same similar definitions. And we should always cultivate a shared understanding of this. And again, language can't always do the work for you. Sometimes we just have to do our own research. Any questions? Cool. So going into understanding gender and pronouns and thinking about inclusive language, some of the outcomes of just having this conversation is acquiring a deeper understanding of gender, further normalizing the use of pronouns, and then thinking critically about the ways to support trans and non-binary communities, both personally and professionally in your lives. Some workshop norms is that everyone is at a different place in their understanding. I know that y'all are potentially looking at me as like the expert in this field, But like even having just 5+ years, have been in like dialogic, like community spaces where we're able to talk about these things. But just know that like there's also things I'm still learning about this community because it's so complex and so beautiful at the same time. So you are all in different places of understanding, so that is okay. Definitely get curious about your base assumptions and challenge them as needed as we go through this presentation. Ask questions and be open to feedback. I'll ask if you have any questions or need clarification. Listen to understand and respond with care. Expect non-closure, so be open to research and know that this is not a topic of conversation that's just going to be closed today. Be open to more research, knowledge sharing, and continuing that learning. And again, nobody is an expert, and we're also going to potentially use words that are used as slurs for the community as a purpose of education. Does that sound good with everybody? Okay. So what's the difference between sex and gender? I think often we conflate sex and gender together, and I think this is the time where we're able to be in this space together and be able to separate these two from each other. So sex refers to a person's biology, including their hormones, their chromosomes, their genitalia. So typically when you think about sex assigned at birth, you're talking about the terms female and male. Sometimes when people are referring to gender, they use the terms female and male, but that is more so in terms of like what that means for sex. Gender, on the other hand, refers to a person's actual like identity separate from their sex assigned at birth. So not everything is just so linear where you're just like, you're female assigned at birth, and so you're just going to grow up a woman for the rest of your life. Some people don't feel that way and don't identify that way. And so I think it's a way that people kind of conflate the two based on someone's gender expression on what you think you also see. So also gender expression refers to the way people present themselves through appearance, behavior, clothing. People will see that as androgynous, feminine, masculine. But when we're thinking of gender, we're thinking of woman, man, non-binary, transgender, and all the other identities that fall under that umbrella. But I always want to like preface that we should be separating the terms, the sex and gender from each other. Does anybody have any questions, or does that sound weird? Good, cool. And so some terms that are have different meanings to different folks based on their own lived experiences. These definitions are based on trends of how folks within the community make sense of them largely as a collective. And so there are terms such as transgender, which is an umbrella term for folks whose sex assigned at birth is very different from their gender identity that they identify with. And then also the term transsexual is fairly outdated. So some trans folks do find that offensive, and it's not right to like use that word anymore. So again, language is subjective and it's fluid and it changes. But the ways that the word transsexual has been used has had a negative connotation to the community. Cisgender refers to people whose sex assigned at birth matches their gender identity. So you're born as a female and you live your life as a woman, that is a cisgendered person. Gender pronouns, now we're leaning into gender pronouns, are words to refer to folks more so in third person. So like, he's eating pizza over there, she's eating pizza over there, they're eating pizza over there. I mean, sometimes people will think that like they're supposed to be plural, but when we think of like the word there, sometimes we use it like if somebody left their jacket at the restaurant and you don't know what gender jacket that is, sometimes you're just going to say, oh, that person left their jacket over there. And it's a part of our language that we use, but sometimes people want to take it very seriously when they want to combat using these type of pronouns. And we'll have a few more examples throughout. So non-binary is also an umbrella term used in Western culture to define folks who don't necessarily identify as a man or a woman. It's commonly shortened to NB or NB with an ENBY. We also have gender nonconforming, which refers to people whose gender expression does not follow traditional norms of behavior and appearance, and that you'll also see that shortened as GNC. And then a couple more terms is that we have intersex. So thinking about sex and gender, intersex kind of describes people whose sex-related characteristics are different from like the typical characteristics. Again, thinking about like someone's chromosomes can change, can make them intersex, having different genitalia that's not necessarily always tied to the male and female sex would be considered intersex. And so there's various ways in which I believe there's like 6 different categories in which somebody can be described as intersex, but that's kind of largely not talked about as much. Transitioning is the pursuit of legal, medical, and social changes. Not everybody goes through this who identifies as trans or non-binary, but knowing that one trans person doesn't always look like the same trans person. There's trans people that look different, have different pronouns, their hormone, they might be considering hormone replacement therapy, they might not. And there's just so many different types of beautiful beings that exist, and it's not necessarily one set in stone. So examples of pronouns that we hear typically are she, her, hers, he, him, his, they, them, theirs. Some people don't like to go by pronouns, so they'll just tell you to use their name. Sometimes we want to think about language in terms of like él, ella, and ella for like folks that are within the Latinx community. And then siya for me, like for being Filipino, and in Tagalog in our language, I don't even speak it, but I would like if people do speak it, is to refer to me as siya, so that we don't have too many gendered ways to describe people in Tagalog. And then there's also neo-pronouns such as zim, zir, or zim, zir. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce most of them. But again, like this picture is trying to show you too that it's not necessarily a linear path in the way that pronouns work. It's very complex and it's very confusing. And that's also okay for it to be very complex and confusing because life is complex and confusing. And so again, an example of being able to use them is describing people in third person. So like he is speaking, or they are speaking, or Z is speaking. And so just wanting to respect people's pronouns and when they use them. And making sure that like, you know, if you don't know someone's pronouns, always make sure you're like, feel comfortable to ask, because that's also okay, because that's also validating and seeing that, you know, you want to be able to speak correctly. But if you make a mistake, that's also okay. Just apologize, move forward, and keep it pushing. So that's mostly what the community has looked towards. But I wanted to jump into a really quick activity with y'all just to kind of see what folks have like heard and things. And so I'm going to read some statements, and when you, if you've experienced these statements, just raise your hand. That's all you got to do. All right, so we're going to jump into it. So have you ever heard people say, "That's so gay"? Okay, thank you. Have you ever heard people say, "No homo"? Pretty common. Have you ever heard cisgender men call each other feminizing insults like sissy or the B word? Yeah. Yeah. Rough world. Have you ever heard someone say that a masculine presenting girl is a tomboy? Yeah, love that. I appreciate y'all being honest. This is real. Have you ever heard someone assume another is heterosexual? Yeah. It's kind of a norm in our society. Have you ever known somebody that has been harassed because of their gender identity? Okay, thank you. Have you ever known somebody that has been harassed because of their sexual orientation? And then have you ever attended a gender reveal party?
Yes. Like a baby shower, y'all.
That's the next question. Have you ever attended a baby shower?
Actually, they're different things, Josh.
No, yeah. So just thinking about this activity, like how did that potentially make people feel? Anybody can answer.
Rough world.
Huh?
It's a rough world out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't live in the heteronormative.
Mm-hmm. And I like that you bring up allosexuality. Mm-hmm. Anybody else make them feel weird or like that's not right?
Your house is safe. Safer than going outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes it feel like LGBTQ people can't be outside in the world and living their lives. Like, I think that's something that we kind of just have to like sit with and kind of think about how these things come up. Or have we ever like had like games like at a party and like have you ever experienced, well, how have you raised your hand? Have you ever experienced them say like, we're gonna do boys versus girls? Who would that leave out if you had somebody that was potentially transgender or somebody who was non-binary in your family, or, you know, who was at that party that wouldn't be able to participate in that game because they wouldn't know which group to go to? So definitely got to think about the ways in which we like interact with people and interact with the world, but kind of just wanted to gauge some of that. So in the event that you ever see any of these things happening, we definitely hope that someday we'd all feel empowered to be able to tell people something, but I know that's not easy within our communities and within our families as well. But just kind of thinking about the harm that is produced on LGBTQ individuals of just being able to live. I didn't mean to bring it down like that. We still have fun. So some pronoun tips and considerations. Pronouns don't always have to correlate to a person's gender or what you perceive their gender expression also to be. So again, asking for pronouns isn't exclusively relevant for folks that you perceive to be trans. Thinking about like what allyship to the community could look like. I think about like the first day you're like in your classroom and the teacher might do like a round of introductions for everyone to introduce yourself. You might be that one person in your class that's going to share your pronouns, and then someone in the community could be in that class and be like, oh, that person's actually aware of pronouns. Like that's like kind of shows your allyship to the community in very small ways that you can do that. And that could also be when you're introducing yourself in general. And even if you're cis, just introducing your pronouns just makes you know that you're aware about pronouns and pronoun usage. So again, if you make a mistake, acknowledge it, apologize, do better in the future, keep it pushing. I think that's the most of what our community would like to see, instead of somebody that's like dragging on this whole situation for the next 10 minutes. And some folks use multiple sets of pronouns for different reasons. So again, context matters, and we want to provide our community abundance of affirmations and know that their identities are valid. And then being able to, again, consciously use pronouns will likely feel weird at first, but it is definitely useful, like in the classroom and in different ways. We have some resources for continued learning, so I'm glad that this is recorded, so then you'd be able to access these links in some way. But we have a few resources from the Trans Student Educational Resource page, resources on personal pronouns if you want to learn more about the intersex community, and different organizations like Gender Spectrum, and then we have a few videos here that you can watch. And so stay connected at the SRC. You want to stay up to date with our events and things. We'll just casually email you and tell you that, hey, these events are coming up. So you can scan our QR code. Our office again is Tivoli 213. We have our phone number. There's my my email and our director's email. Tyrell is really great. I am in the wonderful work environment right now. And then we have our LGBTQ website, and then also follow us on Instagram, where we post most of our events that we host. So we have a cutie POC for folks that identify as queer, trans people of color. We have a community brunch coming up on Tuesday, April 12th from 11:30 to 1. And so we're gonna have either Panera Bread. Yeah, we're gonna have Panera Bread tea and just like spilling the tea with the community. So look forward to that. We also have Trans Day of Visibility coming up. Trans Day of Visibility typically falls on March 31st. But we are going to host an event from 2 to 4 on Thursday, March 30th. So look out for that. It's going to be a gender expression party. We're going to have like makeup and mask things that people can take and all the things. It's kind of just going to be a fun time. And we have a lot of campus partners there too. But that's pretty much it. I'm surprised I didn't get as nervous and stutter in front of y'all, so I'm proud of myself. Thank you.
We're gonna just take like a 2-minute break.